This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
The Conjuring: Last Rites. On September 5th.
Hey, come down here! I need your help!
The Conjuring: Last Rites. Only in theaters September 5th. Rated R.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Buying a car shouldn't eat up your week. That's why Carvana made it convenient. Car buying that fits around your life, not the other way around. You can get pre-qualified for an auto loan in just a couple of minutes and browse thousands of quality car options, all within your terms, all online, all on your schedule. Turn car buying into a few clicks and not a full week's endeavor. Finance and buy your car at your convenience on
Carvana.
Financing subject to credit approval. Additional terms and conditions may apply.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Come meet me at the Musial with Alan and Daniel. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. Everyone come gather round, listen to your favorite sound. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We'll talk the games and all the rest, about the team that we love best. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We're gonna talk about the Cardinals all night long.
Good morning and welcome into another edition of Meet Me at Musial. I'm your host, Daniel Shoptaw at C70. With me, as always, Alan Medlock, a Medlock1, coming to you Saturday morning. It has been a week of great fall weather. The college football season started this week, but we're still here talking about the Cardinals, Alan. I don't know, they're not necessarily relevant anymore, but it's still, that's what we do.
Yeah, which was honestly kind of the goal, wasn't it? Just to kind of see and play well enough to where we can have kind of meaningful conversations going right. They're still making moves, whether it's firing people or bringing up some guys that we were kind of hoping to see, and here we are, right at the tip of September, and it's winding down at relatively well.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't really want to be sitting here, 67 and 69. I mean, even if they sweep the Reds, they'll finish 500 it'll be at 500 going into the last month of the season. And that's not exactly where you want to be.
Especially after the start. Yeah.
Right. But like you said, like you always say, they didn't ruin the summer, right? I mean, they were relevant for quite a bit of it. They played some, and they're interesting. I think there's things that are frustrating. There are things that, we would do differently, but on the whole, it's not been a terrible, I mean, we're not watching the Rockies. We're not watching the White Sox. We're not watching those teams that, before you turn on the TV that you're probably going to lose that game. I mean, they've been competitive. It's just not as competitive as we might like. Sure.
And it's this could lead to a whole nother debate of whether this was a success. Yeah, whether this is labeled a successful season or not. I mean, the attendance figures say one thing, and And my question to you throughout this is do you deem this as successful? I mean, have they answered any questions? Because I really don't know. I mean, like my
Yeah.
question to you is, what is a rebuild? Because Katie had posted some stuff this week that said, "Hey, don't expect them to be big players in the market this year. This is a true rebuild," and it made me ask myself, "What? I want to know what the label of that is."
Yeah, I mean, rebuild means different things for different people, right? I think that the Cardinals, you could say, if you want to put the most optimistic spin on it, that a rebuild for the Cardinals is trying to get back to the levels as they've been at, building on the foundation of the young players that they have. A lot of times we hear rebuild and it's people got to tear down before they start
Yeah,
building. I don't think the Cardinals are doing that whole tear down thing. I think they're trying to be as we say, as competitive as possible while still sticking to this, development plan. Um, if you're going to ask if this season has been successful, it maybe, but again, one, the results are not. If you just look at results, no, it has not been successful. There's no doubt about that.
sure.
But if you're looking at what they wanted to do when they came in, they wanted to know about these players. I don't know. They've had so many injuries. They've had so many, stops and starts with some players. I think they have an idea of what they have in Burleson now, which they, looked out pretty well. There's still a lot of possibility around Jordan Walker, and maybe a strong September gives you a better idea of what what we might expect in the future. Nolan Gorman has been better, so it may be that
Yes.
it's not quite complete. They may really need to take the whole season
Yeah.
to evaluate these guys, because there's some guys that if you try to evaluate them at the All-Star break would have a different answer than what they'll have at the end of September.
Sure. Are we in a situation now to where we're seeing that the patience that really frustrated us throughout Mo's tenure is maybe going to be you're going to have to be forced to be patient now with Bloom, and knowing that there's a good chance that your lineup next year looks very, very similar because A, contractual obligations, and B, another year of development. I mean, I would want Gorman is one that's interesting to me because that's we've seen a couple of years of that, but no, now there is that element that he does kind of feel like a complete hitter, and I think they're going to try to find that position. But there's another thing at 23 going into 24. I don't think you can give up on Walker this soon,
No.
and I think that your outfield will probably look very, very similar to what it does now, unless it has a Donovan out there, so you can have room for Gorman, which goes into the Arenado question. But yeah, I always think about that. I'm like, what does that definition of a rebuild mean? I mean, because in theory they could have been in it the past 2 years and we just didn't realize it, playing with the guys that they've had and moving Goldschmidt and all those things. I mean, I would think that this is a success for Burleson. I would think that it's a success for Herrera this year,
Yeah.
and you've answered some of those questions. Some of the things in a rebuild that worry me is, I mean, you have to look at the positive on it, but how much do you bank on a bullpen? Because you and I for 8-10 years now have talked about the volatility of a bullpen, and I mean, I love what they have now. Bullpen wise, I'm a big Romero guy. I think we can fall in love with these guys pretty easy. I think O'Brien is promising. I think Swanson is, but those are all those things that you're just like, this could completely be combustible next year, and that typically is what happens in a bullpen setting, and then you move up and think, well, rotation wise, what's going to happen? And we think that they need arms, need as in talent improvement, definitely, but we also feel like they need arms to fulfill innings, because that's something that's going to be an issue next year. So in a rebuild situation, what does that map out to?
Yeah. As for the bullpen, I think you hold loosely to people. I think that because if you're not trying to win, I mean, per se next year, if that's not the top priority, then I think you're a lot more flexible bringing all these guys back of the bullpen and seeing what they can get of you. But I know we talked about it, a couple years ago that, they had a great bullpen and they had built, maybe it was last year, I guess, maybe. And, they'd done a lot of good job of building their bullpen in various ways. And then, going into this year, they kind of rolled it forward and that didn't necessarily work. At the beginning of the year, they had some struggles and, you know, it, the bullpen has still probably been a strength of their team, but it's also because there's some guys that have stepped up that you didn't necessarily expect, the O'Briens, the Svensons, and things of that nature. So I think, especially in a rebuild situation, you hold those guys loosely. I mean, if somebody wants to give you value for it, you go for it. If you can find other arms, you find other arms. That does feel like you could put together, and I think we've seen it in lots of places, not just in St. Louis, that you can put together a bullpen out of, gum wrappers and, baling wire, and it'll be fine. Right. I mean, you can just kind of find them wherever. But, I don't know. And then, finding those arms for trying to cover innings is going to be interesting. I mean, this year the Cardinals have used 7 starters. I don't expect that to happen next year. Right. I mean, even if people are staying healthy, assuming that they can get some talent that they want to look at, I think that they're going to be more aggressive about, seeing a Quinn Matthews or a Liam Doyle or whoever they think might be ready to get up to the majors. I don't think you'll be sitting there waiting for an opportunity. I think they'll make an opportunity for those guys.
Yeah, that's true. That makes a ton of sense. I just look through and think, man, how much better they would look right now if they had 2 more quality arms in the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And then that makes me think, now, well, how does that change the definition of what they're doing? And I understand they're not going to go spend money to do that, which tells me that outside of just playing lights out and pitching development just being, off the charts, I don't see much room for improvement. That's where I get a little concerned. I'm thinking, is it still caught in the mud just a little bit because of, the poor development that was reported at the end of last season? Because I'm just afraid like next year they're just going to be short of innings, period. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. We know Michaelis is moving on. I have lost complete confidence in Palante. And I think that last year was just the flash in the pan. And that's what kind of concerns me about going through 162 games next year.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know. I think it's going to be a very important offseason for Palante because I think we've seen some reports this week of all the underlying stuff looks exactly like it did last year, which means that the hitters have figured it out,
Yes.
And so he's going to have to figure out how to make adjustments and how to, start fooling people again. He gets to start on Sunday. If that doesn't go well, I got to feel like that's probably his last one for the year, right? That he'll, maybe they'll move him to the bullpen. I don't know exactly who takes that spot, but I think they'd move him to the bullpen and start trying to figure out, maybe that's how you start adjusting and approaching people differently when you're at the bullpen and you can take it back. I mean, you're right. I think they're going to have to, and they're not going to spend a lot, but where they are going to spend is going to be in some sort of veteran pitchers because there's just not enough arms. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's enough arms right now to fill the rotation, much less cover any shortfalls. I mean, Liberatore and and even Liberatore, right? I mean,
well, he's exhausted. You're right. I mean, that's
You hope that's what it is, right? I mean, and he still obviously, like last night pitched well through 5 innings and then it just kind of hit a wall. So it feels like that it is some sort of, just innings load management. But he has pitched more innings than this in his career overall, not just not in the major leagues. But he's getting pretty close, and it's been a couple years. So maybe that's it. You hope that's it. But still, what's that going to look like over a whole year next year? We don't
Yeah.
know. You're right. Palante, I don't know right now, unless they give him some homework this winter, if he's going to be an arm for the rotation. You've got McGreevy, who I'm still not 100% sold on for a whole year, but we'll see how that goes for this year. I mean, back of the rotation, sure, probably, but there's those three, and then but if Sonny Gray gets traded, who fills out that rotation?
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. That's kind of where I was going with my next question too. Is a rebuild in a sense a place where Matthews makes the rotation next year and you roll with it? I mean, am I wrong there, or is that one of those? Hey, we don't want to halt development or whatnot, or I just don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely a fair question, and it's one that we talked about a lot coming into this year. Does development mean bringing them to the major leagues and not worrying about the results, letting them face those kind of players, or do you keep them? Don't rush them to the majors because you have a need. You leave them at AAA and take your lumps at the major leagues because they need to fully cook, if it will. And I guess I'm sure that's a different answer for different players. I imagine if Quinn Matthews finishes his season well, which he's been doing pretty well as of late, from what I can remember, I would imagine that Matthews is one that they would just go ahead and bring up and say, he's had some AAA experience, and if it goes really, really south, then they demote him. But I could see them saying, you've got a month here in the major leagues, free and clear. Just do your thing and then we'll reevaluate, whatever. But somebody else, and I don't have really anybody else right now. I mean, we keep talking about Dole, but Dole hadn't, I guess I don't know if he's thrown a pitch yet or not for the Cardinals. I think he has. I think I saw that he was activated, but I don't remember seeing the results of a game. So maybe not. A Tink Hintz, if he was healthy next year, he's not going to be a guy that they're going to put in the major leagues. Although they might think they're going to put him in the major leagues just so to make sure that the few innings he does pitch are at the big league level. Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think you're probably going to see a lot more people pressed into service at the major league level because they're going to need the innings to cover.
Yeah, that's it. That's kind of the only explanation, I think, and there's a lot to me. Yes, another summer of this hanging around, or maybe next year just being completely bad. I don't know. I could probably stomach that. I know that it's. All of our time is kind of dwindling, and I want to see those runs again. Don't get me wrong, but I would rather see it with a Matthews than a Michaelis. And trust me, I was a Michaelis proponent. One of those, but there's a freshness to it. There is positivity and a newness to it that I would be willing to watch. I think that you're going to get a lot of pushback with a rational conversation like this, where you're just thinking, hey, you have 162 games of innings that you're going to have to fill out. I think everybody that listens probably knows that that's probably going to be 2 veteran arms that you have to bring in to finish those out. I don't think, in fairness, that's going to be looked at positively, because everybody's going to think, oh, it's the same old stuff that Mo did. He just goes bottom of the barrel type stuff. And I don't think that's necessarily fair, but I worry about the pushback about what that's going to look like.
Well, but I wonder, again, it might not help because of his history lately. But what if you go out and sign a 40, 41, 42-year-old Max Scherzer?
Well,
does that move
drum
it
recent
more?
weeks, and I think you're getting me to come around on that a little bit.
Yeah. It's still not. It's still not necessarily going to solve your problem. It's obviously not the Max Scherzer of his prime, and it's not. He's run into health issues. Are you talking? You may only be talking, 120, 130 innings maybe out of him, but that's better than, that's another 130 innings you don't have to try to cover with, somebody from AAA that's not ready yet. So I don't know. I mean, that's the only kind of thing. Like, I think you're right. If you go out and sign Miles Michaelis's clone or Miles
Yeah.
Michaelis or something like that. I mean, if you
Yeah,
get
that's a
somebody like,
concern of mine. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a concern of mine, and not because one, yes, the results. Two, yes, whatever you think about him. I was always a fan because I felt like he could at least throw you a game up to where it would give you. I don't know why I was always felt more confident than Miles in a lot of that they've had in.
Mhm.
But that's another thing too. I'm just kind of ready for the new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we're gonna do this, let's do this, and let's quit with that type of situation, and then let's throw the Matthews, because we expected Matthews to be in the rotation right now. If you'd have asked anybody at the end of last year,
Right. Yeah. I mean, as much as we bash on Michaelis, and there's reasons to do that.
sure,
Last year he led the team in quality starts, and this year he's had a number of pretty good outings. I mean,
yes,
I think I wrote the article in the Substack, and he's had about as many games where he's given up, 0, 1, or 2 as he has, 5, 6 or more. It seems like, I think the stats are, he does a lot better at home than he does on the road, and but you can't exactly manage that sometimes. But yeah, I think you're right. I think we kind of, we know that there's diminishing returns, and another year of Michaelis probably pushes it even farther into the, okay, yeah, he's going to give you a good start every once in a while, but the ugly starts are going to be bad.
yeah,
And I think you're right. I think even if you got the same results out of player X as you did out of Miles Michaelis, you'd rather see player X just because you haven't seen him before.
yes, yeah. That's well put, because that's kind of how I feel about it. You're just like, if we're gonna have change that we think is going to be that we think is coming, then it has to start, and even if it's something minuscule like that, that's just where it has to go.
Yeah. And it just feel like, I mean, we've seen it in the draft. We've seen it in some of the ways that they've gone about things. Because it does feel like more and more this week, especially, and we'll talk some more about it, that Chaim Bloom is starting to put his fingerprints on this
Sure.
organization. But it does feel like they're having a more of a focus on strikeouts, and which means that, for all the concern of Miles Michaelis getting an extra year on his contract, which I get, and is there's a non-zero chance of that. I do think that with Chaim Bloom, a guy that doesn't necessarily have the connections to Michaelis as some others, and the focus that they're having on strikeouts, that even if they go out, they're going to go out and find somebody that can still strike some people out, even if it's not to the level, not an expensive level. It's not a high level of strikeouts, but still somebody that's going to be able to give you a little bit more than that, rather than a pitch to contact type of guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's you can kind of that change in directive, and it always leads back to those questions that Mo would answer with, home runs and strikeouts cost money, are
Right.
expensive, and I think that's where you can see more of the development than anything right now on that strikeout tilt. Now, I mean, you can see it in the draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and imagine, we've gotten the reporting this week. I think it was this. I don't think we talked about this last week. Of the fact that the Cardinals could still have a lottery pick this year, because when they got Weatherholt, that was 7, and that was not considered a lottery pick. You have to be top 6. And right now, I think they're picking. I didn't look at it after yesterday's win, but they're picking in the 9-10 range. I mean, it's not impossible for them to get a top 5 pick again. And I think that would be really interesting, right? I mean, to get that kind of influx in 3 years of talent into an organization might really give a jump start into this idea that you are actually building in this rebuild, not just the Pirates have been in a perpetual rebuild for the last 25 years. They put up a few boards and then they tear them down, and they put up a few boards and stuff like that. And I don't, that's not what the Cardinals are going to do. I don't think. I think the Cardinals are going to try to build back to where they were, and I just don't. I don't think they're ever going to just let's tear it down to the complete studs and start from there. We're just going to take what we've got and start improving on it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I think that concerns a lot of people, because then it feels like you're in the middle ground. But I mean, I take away a lot of positives from what they've had this year, and I think that's runway for some of these guys to keep playing. And I may have egg on my face with Gorman before it's all said and done. just because I feel like a big development with him is that left center field power alley.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen him hit it several times this year, and you're just like, well, those are balls he would flail on last year. And I'm hoping that we see the same thing out of Walker. Because if I think you can cut down the strikeouts in either one of them, they're going to be productive hitters. I love Wynn. I love Mason. You can build some from athletic ability on all those guys. I feel like that there's promise there. The weight on my neck is the pitching, and you're just like, man, how quick can they develop that? That's where I have some trouble. Thinking that this is going to be something that I think that you're going to probably look a lot like you are this year, stats wise and numbers wise, and standings wise, like you do next year. That's if you can fulfill those inning obligations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to expect. I hope that they don't expect. I know that Lynn Worthy wrote a little bit of a column on it this week. I didn't just read it, but it's all the headlines. I don't think anybody should expect, Chaim Bloom to come in and all of a sudden it's, a well-oiled machine or anything. I mean, this is going to take time, and we've talked about that too, right? That trying to determine if he's actually going to be able to fix it, and how fast he can fix it, and things of that nature. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I think, we've seen the offense completely crater this second half. I posted the stat, and they probably improved it last night, so they're probably not that way anymore. But they were 30th in OPS in the second half. I mean, we've seen, how many times we've seen shutouts or whatever that the Cardinals just couldn't get anything going offensively. And so I'm a little bit as optimistic as I am about seeing, Gorman starting to, getting this regular playing time and doing something with it, and Walker hitting the ball hard still, and getting some results out of it. Part of me also was like, is that a good month for those guys? And we're going to revert back. I hope not. I don't know that there's a reason, a solid reason to think that, but I think we've seen that track record so many times of them. We've seen Nolan Gorman have a good stretch, right? And then he just bottoms out. And, is this anything different? I think you're right, where you're seeing some different approaches that makes you feel like it's something different. But, if he finishes the season in the last 2 weeks of the season, he's, 0 for 20 with 19 strikeouts, I'm going to feel like we're still in that cycle.
Very, very true. And you caught me mid-bite of this apple, by the way.
I should have talked to you longer. Sorry.
No. It's all right. 100% correct on that. How much do you think? I know this is going to sound silly. I mean, you have Nootbaar, and it's Nootbaar, which is still the enigma of this. We don't really know. How much of it is the fact that Donovan's been playing hurt too, or not playing at all at some point offensively?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much, if you're talking about the overall offense thing, losing Donovan hurts. Mason Wynn has struggled. He had a good night last night. I have been concerned that knee is bothering him enough offensively, because his August numbers weren't really great. And then we've seen, some sporadicness here and there out of people. But not having Donovan out there does, make an impact. And even, I mean, I don't know, you swap. Victor Scott was no great shakes, but he's still probably better offensively, or the numbers have been better than, Nathan Church. So I don't know. I think some of it is just inconsistency because it is a young lineup. And some of it is, and I think they're going to have a hard evaluation this winter of who still has that potential and who's just really not going to reach it. I mean, we've talked a lot about Lars Nootbaar, but he basically played healthy this year, and still hasn't quite attained what people thought he would do. And is this who he is? And if that's the case, is that a situation where you either find somebody that's interested in him, or, de-emphasize him in the rotation? Because there's going to have to be, we talked about it, but with JJ Weatherholt knocking on the door, with Donovan coming back, with, Scott back here, there are way too many bodies for spots next
Yeah,
year, and somebody, I mean, I feel like somebody's got to go.
sure. I mean, just gut. Just shoot from the gut on this one. Would you rather see another year of Newt Bar over Walker, or do you think it's time for Walker over Newt Bar next
I
year?
mean, if you're gonna take one of those two, I'd take Walker.
Me too. I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, when you say guys that maybe at the end of this, to where they've kind of figured some stuff out, I feel like you're talking about Newt Bar.
It may be. I mean,
You know?
again, not having the injury, not having him out for a long period of time for injury means that it's a little harder to dream on potential.
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, nothing against. I mean, he's a solid player.
sure.
And he's a guy that will help a team. But you know, I think the problem is the Cardinals have a lot of solid players that can help a team, and not a lot of people that'll just run a team. And
Yeah,
Jordan Walker has the potential still at this age, and what we've seen out of his offensive profile. If he starts, lifting the ball even, and we've talked about this since George Walker came into the league, but more often he's going to be he's got a chance to be a 30 home run guy, right?
oh yeah.
25, 30
With
home runs.
speed, 30 home run
Right.
guy with speed. I mean, that's
Yeah.
tough to top if
Right. And I mean, and that's probably like best case scenario for Jordan
Yeah,
Walker. I mean, but still, even if he's a 20 home run hitter with, and I think that's probably more valuable than what you're going to get out of Lars
yeah,
Newbar. Again, if you want Lars Newbar as your fourth outfielder, that's great. But,
yeah,
when you're looking at, trying to figure out how you're going to get everybody in this, because again, if you think JJ Weatherholt is the real deal, which he seems to be, right? I mean, he has not had any problems at all at AAA. And he's going to be playing second base next year. Even if you trade Nolan Arenado, Nolan Gorman's at third. Well, that means Donovan, if you're going to keep Donovan, which again is a tradable person, but
sure.
if you're keeping him, he's in the outfield, and then it's him and Victor Scott and Jordan Walker, and how do you get the new bar's your fourth, and so yeah, I think that I think that's an interesting thing for this winter. I don't know. I feel optimistic that we'll see some roster churn in a trade situation, and not in the last 2 or 3 guys on the roster or whatever. I feel like all those trades that we've talked about Mo making over the last 6 years, that you've got to do this because you've got so many of these guys. I think Chaim Bloom's going to make a few of those trades.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost think you'd have to. I mean, it's in a perfect world for me next year. What I would prefer is that Donovan would be your primary second baseman, and he plays somewhere else just out of necessity. But he means enough to me in a lineup that I think he needs to be in it every day. So whether that means an infield of Gorman, Wynn, Weatherholt, and Contreras / Burleson. And then you can go Donovan, Wynn, Walker in the outfield with Burleson being your fourth outfielder. I like that. That's something that I would like to see. And that goes back to the newness factor of it. Right. I would like to see that because I would like to see a full year of Weatherholt. I would like to see Donovan back in the lineup. And then, I'm iffy on Gorman. There's been a lot of positives in the past 2 weeks that I've seen out of Gorman, more so than I've seen in a while. And I wonder if that is the patience play, that he's kind of growing up a little bit, that you kind of overreacted, because that's kind of what I've been preaching for Walker for 2 months. Just be patient. The kid's 23 years old. You can only imagine with the hype that come through, and the expectations, it'd be tough. Let's see how it plays out. Well, maybe that is starting to work in Gorman's favor now. All that being said, I mean, I just don't see a scenario where Arenado is going to be back where it's a positive development. And I mean, I love Nolan. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't know if this has a happy ending. I hope it does for both parties, but I just don't know, because I feel like that's just God, I don't know. That's just the stumbling block for so many things.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think for Nolan, and looking at from his point of view, the Cardinals are probably not going to contend in the next 2 years.
Sure.
I mean, not seriously. I mean, maybe 27 they could put some sort of run together, but again, when you're looking at it, probably not. And that's the only 2 years he's under contract. So does he want to be like a spare part on a team that's not necessarily going anywhere, or does he want to even if he's not a full-time starter on a Houston or something like that, does he want to make the move? Now, again, part of what Nolan's list looks like is because of his family, and he doesn't necessarily want to move. And he seems to like St. Louis. So, maybe, I expect that if they come to him and say, look, if you're here, you're going to be the backup. You're not going to be playing every day. You're going to be, your guy off the bench, your defensive guy. You're going to be, you'll start, maybe half the games or something like that. But we really need to get these guys in lineup. I think when they bring it to him like that, his competitive juices are going to be, let's open that, circle up to what. But then again, if you're a contending team, do you take on a Nolan Arenado? Even if the Cardinals are paying most of the money, I mean, obviously his defense is still there, although it's, not quite what it was. It's still really, really good. But the bat, is league average at best, unless you think that, unless he comes back and shows that this shoulder work, he plays the last 2 weeks and he looks like a different player. It's hard to imagine, even if he opens up the field, who's going to take Nolan Arenado. I mean, and again, I'd love to have him here as a backup guy. I would, I'd much rather him finish his career as a Cardinal, but I also understand that it is, a point where I don't know that they can play him at third every day.
Yeah. I haven't been the most forthcoming in all of our years of doing this show, but I can see the future, and I've never told you that. This is what's going to happen.
It would have helped a little bit before 2020 if you had told us that.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't change everything, but let's put it this way. This is what's going to happen. They're going to come to an amicable release, and there will be a buyout, and he'll be a free agent, only to go to Milwaukee and hit 30 home runs. That's exactly what's getting ready to happen. We know it. Just do it now.
Well, if Eddie could throw
that's what
30 innings
the most. That
2 earned runs, then yeah, maybe.
I knew it. I'm like, this is not going to go well.
Yeah, Milwaukee is. I don't know why nobody says Brewer Devil Magic, because they've definitely taken the Cardinal Devil Magic and turned it into something up there.
Yes, it's crazy right now.
It is.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
I wouldn't. I mean, if it does, we'll know who to blame. So,
yep.
Let's talk a little bit. We got a couple of call ups yesterday. We got Jimmy Crooks and Cesar Prieto that came up because Pozo goes on the concussion IL. Burleson's wrist bothering him, so they brought up. I mean, I think it's interesting that they brought these guys up, even with the need. I'm a little bit, they brought up prospects, right? I mean, this is the type of thing that in the past they would have brought up some journeyman that
a Nathan Church.
Yeah, Nathan Church.
I mean, yeah.
Well, and even Nathan Church at least was on the prospect list.
Well, that is true.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, somebody that isn't necessarily a part of your future. And to be fair, I think Cesar Prieto probably still. I think he's in line with the Nathan Church. Right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
But here we are. We know. I mean, in theory, Pozo's only out 7 days, only out a week, and yet here they are bringing up their best catching prospect to fill that spot instead of whoever the second string guy is at Memphis to play back up and let Pages play all week. I mean, you've still got Herrera on your, here if you need him. I'm almost surprised they did that, right? I mean, they could have just said Herrera's our backup if we need him. I mean, they obviously are definitely not wanting him to catch the rest of the year. So I don't know. I think that's very interesting to see Crooks up in this situation, and I don't know what that means for a week from now when Pozo comes back. So, I mean, what are your thoughts about the fact that they brought up Jimmy Crooks?
Well, that's what you and I a little talk before the show is. I mean, he got to catch every day, doesn't he?
I mean, we think, but
Yeah.
I mean, in this situation right here, I mean, this is still in theory Mo in charge, right? And Mo and Ollie, and we've said so often Herrera needs to start every day, and Pajes would be starting. So, I mean, in theory, I agree with you. Crooks should start just about every day, and maybe not a day game after a night game, but I don't know that that's going to happen.
Yeah. Back to the newness. That's what I want to see.
Right.
And but you're right. I mean, it may not work. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm just glad to see a look, and hopefully go from there and start seeing kind of what we got and see is how much is this. I mean, is this a look into the future a little bit? Because we kind of question that. That how that's going to play out for them behind the plate because we feel like that may be a problem. So. I don't know. To answer your question, I hope it's every day, but you're right. I mean, there's still a lot of question marks around the move.
Yeah, and I wonder, I mean, my guess is at the end of the 7 days, you'll have the expanded roster. So you'll have an extra spot. And they do really like to pinch hit Pozo. So I think Crooks will stay. But I also, again, what's that look like between Pajes and Pozo? And to be fair, Pajes has had a pretty good month. I mean, I didn't realize that they were running the numbers on the broadcast last night, but not even counting last night where he homered. I think he had an OPS close to 1,000 for the month. It comes in spurts, and it's part of that is he hasn't played every day versus the players that are on that list that usually do. But so I don't know how that I mean, you got to have as many catchers as possible on the roster, right? And I don't know. I really, I mean, but at the end of 7 days, the minor league season's almost over, right? There's like 2 weeks left of it. So the end of 7 days, there's only like a week left. What are you sitting Crooks down for the last week for? So I'm going to be very interested to see how this all plays out because it feels like another bit of roster clutter that isn't going to be solved gracefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there an element to that statement alone that you're kind of glad, do we want to see, how do I say it? Do we kind of want to see a out for blood type move? You know what I mean? Are we ready to shake that up a little bit of, let's forget about the graceful moves and let's do what's best for the organization, no matter how, change is painful sometimes, and let's just go ahead and do this. Is that because there's an element to me that is kind of willing to see, waiting to see that, and that's something that I haven't said in a while because I always felt like it was the gentleman ball club type situation, but now it's let's be cutthroat about some of these things because that may be what we're missing.
I mean, that's fair. I don't know. In this situation, I don't know what the
that goes exactly. No, and that leads to a lot of this of where are they caught? Because it seems like it's just from about every angle.
Yeah, part of me wonders, and I think it's probably silly because I don't think it's really necessary. But part of me does wonder if there's an idea of let's make sure Crooks can hit in the major leagues. And then if he can, we know going into next year that he's ready for the big leagues, or we've let other teams know he's ready for the big leagues. Because, again, it's difficult to imagine. I mean, Pajes is a fine backup for sure. And
yes.
And he's more than a backup, but he's not necessarily a guy you want out there every day. So it's hard to figure that out, and Pozo, man, you hate to, I mean, he's a guy that can hit for sure. It's difficult I just don't know how this catcher situation shakes out, because both of those guys are under contract for a long time. And again, I assume we're just writing Herrera off from catching.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No. I agree with you. But then you hear the lines that he wants to catch again. I know that you hear that all the time, but I worry about that being another issue.
I mean, it could be. I mean, it may be more like Trevor Rosenthal keeps saying he wants to start, so they let him start in spring training and then never do it again.
Good point.
But I just don't know. I mean, if they're going to be actually thinking about letting Herrera catch next year, I mean, they have to try to trade Pages or Pozo. Because I don't think you could just release. Maybe you could release Pozo, but I still think they're probably worth trading him. And he may have minor league options left. I don't know. I'd have to look. I just you have too much on the roster as it is, because it really feels like if you think Crooks is ready to play in the major leagues, and he's here now, and if he shows that he's ready to play in the major leagues, then you're right, he has to be the starter next year, right? I mean, at least a 60-40 split with Pages where he's got the 60.
Yeah.
And and then if that's the case, what does Pozo? Does he just become a bench bat that can catch? I mean, maybe, but I don't know that that's I don't know if they can play enough that way.
Yeah, I mean, this is another point that we've had the past, few shows of how we're going to answer that, and that's a good question. I mean, because to me, Pages is the perfect Cardinals backup catcher that they've historically had. But then that adds to it that I don't know if these two can be on the roster next year with Crooks right here. So you're right. I mean, there's going to have to be a release. There's going to have to be a move. And this kind of goes back to what we talked about in the segment beforehand. I mean, it's change is going to be ugly sometimes. And the goodwill, that the feel-good story of Pozo, I doubt's back with the club.
And that's probably, in the way of stories, that's probably the best option, just because it always feels like you get this feel-good story that has a great year. Excuse me. And then never can finish it up the next year, right?
Yeah.
The league figures them out or whatever the case may be. Now, I will say Pozo has hit in the minor leagues and all that. So I'd hate to see him move on, but it probably makes sense if he does. And I think that's going to be, we've seen over especially the last little bit, but probably most of John Mozeliak's term as front office guy, an unwillingness to let go of something that might be valuable in the future. Even if you have, it's kind of like, well, I've got 3 or 4 of these, but I might need this. I haven't used it in, 2 years, but I might still need that at some point in time, as we all do when we're trying to clean out a drawer or something. And I think that if the Cardinals let Pozo go, that again may signal a little bit of difference in approach to things of, we're going to make a roster work, and we'll, if we let something go that could have been valuable, so be it. But I think that's the case that, there comes a point where you just can't have all these catchers, piling up on you. You've got to do something. And, again, it might be, and again, it could be Crooks highlights a trade for a young pitcher, and okay, then you have Pages and Pozo again next year, but if you've got your number 3 starter out of this because of a young guy that has some control, I think you're okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the smart baseball move right there. I mean, you have to do those things. I do think. This is not following on Mo saying that he didn't do those things. I think that they just did the ultra conservative and safe things sometimes. And there was also some path of least resistance things that they would do that I think would get them in trouble. That I do kind of wonder how much Bloom is willing to break the mold on that, or to the bigger question that we talked about, how much he'll be allowed to do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's always going to be fun to see. I mean, yeah. I mean, it'd be silly to say, hey, we're hiring Chaim Bloom, but we're putting all these guardrails on him. But, there obviously are going to be some. I mean, he's not going to be able to go spend $200 million on a pitcher or anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's, I mean, and then, then again, it becomes, if Chaim Bloom makes a move, that doesn't work out, do we blame Chaim Bloom because the move didn't move out, or we'll blame somebody else because he wouldn't have made that move if he didn't have the restrictions? So,
Yeah.
I mean, we'll find somebody to blame. Don't get me wrong. Maybe everybody.
Yeah.
But you do wonder. I don't know. I think this is an interesting. I was just a lot surprised. I mean, Prieto, I don't know about him. I mean, I know he's on the prospect list. I know that they traded for him. He came over in the Jack Flaherty trade. They've had him in the league for a couple of organization for a couple of years, but he's been AAA, I think, the whole time. I just don't know. I mean, it's nice to see him. Don't get me wrong, and it's a great story. I just don't know that he's one that causes a lot of angst if you send him back to AAA next year or have to move on from him. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Hopefully, hopefully he's be a good one. But I have a feeling. I think Crooks is throws a bigger wrench into things, and is more interesting to see him come up, just because of all the different ramifications, and because it's a lot different. It feels a lot different than what we would have seen in the past.
Yeah. You're right. It's that. Do we see a Matthews or a Weatherholt, or is that just way down the line? I mean, that's because I don't know. That I think that adds some excitement looking forward to next year if you can do that. But I don't know if that's even on their radar right now.
I don't know that it is too much, because I mean, one, we've brought up a lot of guys here, and we're going to have to figure out who's going to be able to play in this time period anyway, right? I mean, if September still had the 40 call up, 40-man call up where you could expand your roster out as big as you wanted, I think you would probably see those guys get a chance. Being that it's just the 2 extra guys now, which is again, a stupid rule. With Victor Scott coming off the injured list and with these guys getting called up and all that, I feel like you'll see a pitcher, but it'll probably be like a Roy Croft or something like that. And I would be really surprised if you saw either one of those guys. I definitely don't think you see them September 1st. I think they're going to let them finish out the minor league season, the 2 weeks that's left. Could you see them the last 2 weeks? I guess it depends on, injury, or, if they decide that Liberatore kind of hit a wall and they want to rest him for the last 2 weeks, maybe then they bring up Matthews. But these are guys both that need to be added to the 40-man, which they will probably be done at some point in time next year. But if they don't have to be this winter, it's not the worst thing for the front office.
Yeah.
So I would be surprised if we saw either one of those guys, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's probably the safe play and the logical play, but I mean, it's not the exciting one.
No, yeah. I agree. I mean,
no, I mean, I'm not arguing with you because I'm right there along your lines that they're not going to shake up the apple cart that much.
Well, and again, these are not guys. I mean, a lot of people that are really devoted to the team, focused on the team, they know these guys. They'd be interested to see these guys, but it's also not going to change the needle for attendance in September.
Yeah.
And it's not going to make an impact on a race in September. And I mean, the only reason you do it is to give them a little bit of a taste of the big leagues. But, in the last 2 weeks of a season, I don't know how much you're giving them. So, yeah, I think that, because Weatherholt will have played a full season, and I could easily say that they see them saying, okay, let's just, back it in, take a couple weeks off, get after your off-season routine, and we'll see you at Jupiter. Matthews, being that he was hurt some this year, I mean, it's possible that they might bring him up at the, for the last couple weeks, but I would be a little bit surprised.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like what's that?
I mean, I'd like to see it. You're right.
Oh, no. It's that. My next question. Well, I was going to ask you. I mean, is it just going to be kind of more status quo? Since they can only move the 2 guys up that we see who they're going to be right now, and then the off season is going to be really pivotal.
Yeah, I don't see that there's any kind of and honestly, since they've gone to just a 2-man expansion, I don't think that we've seen much action. It's usually somebody that you've already seen. You add another pitcher and you add, not like you don't always add a catcher like you used to with the big roster. You always had at least one more. But usually it's somebody that, like I said, is coming off the injured list or it's been up a couple times and so they don't have to go back and forth again. I just don't. I think this. I mean, and some teams may do it differently, but I think this just this 2-man expansion has really curtailed being able to see some prospects, especially prospects that aren't your top guys. You used to be able to see a guys like farther down, or even just the the organizational warriors that got a chance to be in the major leagues for a month. At Irving Lopez or something like that, who still never got his first hit. But somebody that got a little bit of major league time without it really hurting the team. I do miss those kind of Septembers and having those kind of I mean, I understand the competitiveness of it, especially when other teams are but right now, I think I was was looking at Joe Sheehan's articles and he was pointed out that pretty much the it's just seeding, but everybody that's in the October has pretty much been there for a while, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in theory, the Reds and the Cardinals could chase somebody down, but that's not going to happen. And so we're not, you're just trying to determine if somebody's going to get a bye or not. And I mean, I'd much rather like to see some, like you say, fresh faces, some interesting stories or whatever in this last month, rather than just slogging along with the same guys and getting the same results.
Yeah. That's I think that's everybody's biggest fear too, that's going to be the exact same. And I think that may be the for lack of a better term, trauma of what we've had under this administration. And maybe it's deserved. I don't know. But yeah, I think that status quo, staying the same, expecting something different. I think those are all the things that fans right now are thinking, okay, that's the stuff that's got to move on.
Yeah. I mean, again, we don't know what to expect until we see it. It's just because we have not dealt with this kind of change. I mean, since, Mo's been there since the end of 2007, and, even then it's kind of been a pretty consistent thing for a number of years. So this is the biggest change, at least since then. And we'll see how it goes, but we don't know what that's like again until we see it. And again, until we know what the limitations are, especially on salary. I figure that's the only thing that the front office is going to, get involved with, right? I mean, they're going to let Bloom do everything they want as long as he keeps salary under X amount.
Yeah. Yeah. And that'll be the big question mark.
Yeah.
And
and that'll take a hit probably. I mean, when you're 17,000 fans in the stadium, I
felt like there's a gut punch this whole season. And I think that it was much more drastic than even they expected. I mean, I fully believe that. Did they take notice? That will be, if that'll be the litmus test.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? I mean, yes, a winning team is important to crowds, but that's going to probably still be a bit, right? So if you wanted to invest in the team and wanted to try to get attendance, you might spend somebody in the off season on somebody that had some cachet. Again, I don't know who that'd be, and I don't know how that'd work, especially because a lot of times you need that to be a hitter because they'll be there every day. And, there's not a real good spot for that right now. But, just at least being involved, bringing some new guys, new faces in, at least might get you good attendance through May or June. Because right now, I mean, we'll see what this winter looks like. But if Chaim Bloom doesn't do much in that regard, if he's clearing some spots, but you're really going to see basically the same team, opening day will have 45,000 and day 2 will have 20. And it'll start from day 2, there won't be a crowd the rest of the way. So, and I mean, we'll see if they want to go that route or if they're going to focus on, this thing needs to, not lose money. And so, because, with ticket sales, with all the stuff that goes around ticket sales, with, the lack of TV revenue, yeah, there could be quite a difference. But, I also think that also, can get you into a spiral where the less money you spend, the less money people come. With the less money you make, the less money you spend, and we've talked about that. So, I hope that I do think that it's probably one of those things that next year might be another rough year because they're going to try to get these guys to the point where they can go get one or two big pieces, and then really contend. But maybe for another rough year.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I almost expect it. Be in the just even the 2 years of research and being chest deep in the minor league system and the preview that he has. I still think that this may be more of of a uh, kind of making some of these tough roster decisions this year, further development, one more year away from where they think they can actually spend.
Yeah. So we have come to almost the end of the show, but I do think it's probably worth taking a couple minutes to talk about maybe the most excitement that we had this week. Willson Contreras going more ballistic than I think I've seen a player go in quite some time, and getting ejected. Were you surprised to see him get that worked up, especially on a call that wasn't that questionable? Um, it just seemed like, it's been a long time since I've seen stuff to get thrown out of the dugout and onto the field.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess surprise wasn't the term. When he threw the bat is when I was like, this is going to be probably. I think you can bank at least 3 games on this one. Whenever when Brant Brown had to move out of the way, that was one of those. I was like, this is not going to be a good situation. It stinks that it was also on Sunday night. One of those type of situations. The not good and not really surprising. I did start thinking about this though. If that would have happened when he was a Cub, we'd have been like, "Oh man, what a loser," type of situation.
Yeah.
But now you're thinking they need that. I think they need that passion right here. I know it's over the top,
Right?
and not what Cardinals fans are used to. But it's one of those that I was like, that was the most fire that I will say this. I don't think there's ever been a situation with this year where I don't think there were stretches where they didn't play hard. And I give Ollie a lot of credit for that. Because I think that they were outmanned, outgunned, Jimmy's over Joe's, type situation a lot of times. But I do not feel like this was a situation this season where there was a lackadaisical approach to things. I don't think that existed. Still yet, I like the fact that somebody that's right there that you can sniff a wild card berth. That's about as far as you're going to get. Probably end up under 500. We don't know what the umpire said, but I was a fan of at least show it a little bit. Whether you went over the top or whatnot, there was a pleasant aspect for me to see that.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I know John Boy's got a breakdown out now. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. But for what I was saying, it looked more like the umpire said, Willson said some not nice things, and Contreras got more upset about the fact that, in his mind, his honor had been offended, because he had not said those kind of things, that he had, had been in his, at least again, according to his story, more of a, hey, call it for both sides. And the umpire took something rough out of that. And now after the fact, Willson definitely said that to him. But yeah, I can see a guy like that getting worked up less about the game than more about, hey, you've said you're calling me a liar, and I don't like that. It's kind of like when Yachty got upset at Torey Lovallo from the Diamondbacks because he called him a name, he got worked up about it. So I can understand that, but yes, that was way more than necessary 6 games seemed pretty harsh.
Yeah.
I mean, he did bump an umpire, so that's going to get you. I mean, anytime you touch an umpire, that adds. I feel like this is going to get cut down to probably 4 on the appeal.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't hear it. If it doesn't come down like Monday, that September or Tuesday, maybe after the holiday, that's when they go ahead and answer the appeal. Allowing the Cardinals to really get out of that wild card race before they, lock it down. But that'd be my guess. I don't know. Does that make sense? Do you think that's reasonable?
Yeah. I've thought 3 from the beginning, but you're right. Maybe cutting 2 games off, especially taking the time that it has.
Yeah.
I've kind of felt like that I didn't think that we would see him finish the Pittsburgh series, but yeah, I mean,
it's hard to. I don't know how they do appeal. It used to be before the digital age.
Yeah,
that appeals took forever because they usually heard them when a team went to New York. Because the offices were there. So if you went in, you appealed, and it was like the next time you were in New York area, they would hear your appeal. Nowadays, of course, obviously they can do that whenever they want to. And it may be just a question of, I don't know who hears the appeal. I don't know if that's a Manfred thing, I don't know if that's somebody else that hears it. I don't know how that all works, but it may just be a situation of trying to get everybody's calendar to line up. And, or they're, like I said, they're waiting a little bit. They're not in a rush just because the Cardinals are kind of on that edge, and it looks, if they cut into it, it looks bad. If they leave it again, it looks bad. So maybe they'd rather them be a little bit farther out of contention before they finalize this. Again, that probably didn't play into it, but I could see some of the optics of that. Maybe it's like, it doesn't really hurt if he plays another couple of games, and if the Cardinals lose them, then it's easier to banish him. I don't know.
Yeah. Will be interesting to see. I kind of circled 3 games, and we'll know. And you're right. I had kind of forgotten about that because I always thought that the turnaround time was quick because the union was involved, and there's kind of split in the middle. And the digital age, there's not a lot of investigative work you have to do. So
no.
I'm not certain that maybe it comes out today. We don't know.
Could be. And the good, you don't get to replace the roster spot. So when rosters expand, the Cardinals will still be playing short, which seems fitting. The way they've done things this year a lot. So, but anyway, it was you're right, a little bit of a jolt of interest and excitement in a week that was iffy at best sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Cardinals have 2 more with the Reds, and they come home and play the A's in September is a minor league schedule. Not because they're the teams that they're playing, but they have 6 games at home, 3 games off day, 3 games, and then they go on the road, 3 off day, 3. That minor league schedule of 6 games at home, 6 games on the road every week. That is what the Cardinals have going forward. They just don't have it against 2 teams instead of 1.
Yeah.
But here we are. I mean, we're about to flip the calendar into the last month of the season, and it is. I know the broadcast continues to say it, but it is true. It has gone by quickly. It's kind of hard to believe we're here at the very end of just what 8 series left in the season.
Man,
yeah,
flies, doesn't it?
It does every time. So unlike this show, which is probably dragged along for everybody else. So we will wrap it up. It up here. Alan, I'll be back with you next week. Talk about how things have gone, and maybe we'll have some clarity about how they're going to be using those catchers. But until then, we've also got a note from Rich about Willie McGee and his trade back in 1990. So stick around for that. But until next time, for Alan, I'm Daniel. Good night.
Good night.
Hi, everyone. Rich Bray here with a look back at how the Cardinals traded Willie McGee to the American League a month before he won the National League batting title. On August 29th, 1990, the St. Louis Cardinals traded the former National League MVP and four-time All-Star to the A's for rookie outfielder Felix Jose and two prospects, third baseman Stan Royer and pitcher Darrell Green. I'm kind of speechless right now, McGee told KMOX. A lot of different things are going through my head. The good times and the bad times. It's a beautiful 9 years of my life. It had to happen sooner or later. I don't think I was in a situation where I was going to be back next year. Though McGee remained a beloved figure in St. Louis, the emergence of rookie center fielder Ray Lankford and the need to remake the roster after a disappointing season led the club to trade McGee, who was reportedly seeking a 3-year, $9 million contract. McGee had been a key figure in the Cardinals' success throughout the 1980s, beginning in 1982 when he finished third in the National League Rookie of the Year balloting and helped the Cardinals win the World Series with a 2-homer performance in Game 3. After earning an All-Star nod and a Gold Glove Award in 1983, McGee enjoyed the best season of his career in 1985, winning the first batting title of his career with a .353 average. He also led the league with 216 hits and 18 triples on his way to the National League MVP. After McGee drove in a career-high 105 runs in 1987, helping the Cardinals win their third pennant in 6 years, St. Louis signed him to a 3-year deal covering the 1988, 1989, and 1990 seasons. After batting .292 with 41 stolen bases in the first year of the contract, McGee struggled through a difficult 1989 campaign. Rib, wrist, and hamstring injuries limited him to just 58 games, and he finished the year with a .236 batting average. Entering the final year of his contract, McGee reported to spring training and proclaimed himself healthy for the first time in a year. I'm back to being the old Willie McGee, he said. I feel like I can run all day. While McGee got off to a hot start, however, his teammates struggled and the Cardinals never got on track. In June, Whitey Herzog resigned and general manager Dal Maxfield saw that his club needed a refresh. The Cardinals' plans drew into greater focus on August 21st when they called up Lankford and inserted him into the starting lineup at center field. To make room for the team's top prospect, McGee was moved to right field. As Lankford inherited the Cardinals' center field job, the American League West leading Athletics found themselves in need of a center fielder when Dave Henderson suffered a knee injury that required surgery. McGee learned of the deal after a 9-1 win over the Reds. Due to bad weather, the Cardinals team plane was delayed, and they remained in the clubhouse for more than 3 hours. After learning of the deal from general manager Dal Maxfield, Cardinals manager Joe Torre called McGee away from his teammates. In a tunnel at Riverfront Stadium, Torre told McGee that he had been traded. McGee then joined his now former teammates on the team flight back to St. Louis. He had to spend 2 more hours in last place, Cardinals pitcher John Tudor joked. After the flight, McGee sat in the airport with Ozzie Smith, Vince Coleman, and Terry Pendleton until 6:30 in the morning. To be honest, I'm real sad to see him go, but I'm happy he's there with all he's had to put up with, Pendleton said. Willie's a winner, not that we all aren't, but I didn't like to see them shifting him around to right field. With a .335 batting average across 542 plate appearances, McGee was leaving the National League in contention for the batting title, trailing only Philadelphia's Lenny Dykstra. The trade to Oakland was a homecoming for McGee, who had grown up there and just built a home in Hercules, California, less than a half-hour drive from Oakland Coliseum. Even better, McGee was going from a last-place team to an American League powerhouse. Earlier that day, the A's had traded for Harold Baines from the Rangers. With McGee and Baines, the A's could include 8 former All-Stars in the lineup, which already included Mark McGwire, Willie Randolph, Carney Lansford, Ricky Henderson, Jose Canseco, and Terry Steinbach. It's like Nixon and Watergate, one American League official said. You didn't need the burglary, you were going to win anyway. McGee appeared in 29 regular season games for the Athletics, batting .274 with 15 RBIs and 3 stolen bases. At season's end, his .335 National League batting average made him the first player in MLB history to win the NL batting crown, while finishing the season in the American League. Reporters were eager to speak to McGee after the A's regular season finale, but when they entered the clubhouse after the game, they found that the NL batting champ had already left. The A's won the American League West and swept the Red Sox in the ALCS before they, in turn, were swept by the Reds in the World Series. That offseason, McGee signed a 4-year, $13 million contract with the Giants to replace Brett Butler as the team's center fielder. Over those 4 years, McGee hit .301 with 14 homers, 148 RBIs, and 43 stolen bases. In the final year of that contract, he was limited to just 45 games by a torn Achilles tendon. Even when he returned with the Red Sox in 1995, McGee was limited to a reserve role and played just 67 games. That, however, set the stage for McGee to return to St. Louis as a valuable fourth outfielder. McGee spent the final 5 seasons of his career with St. Louis, retiring after the 1999 season. In total, McGee played 1,661 of his 2,201 career games with the Cardinals, including 13 of his 18 big league seasons. Jose hit .305 with 8 homers, 77 RBIs, and 20 stolen bases in his first full season in St. Louis, earning an All-Star nod. In 1992, he hit .295 with 14 homers, 75 RBIs, and 28 stolen bases. Ahead of the 1993 season, the Cardinals traded him and Craig Willson to the Royals for Ed Gerald and Greg Jeffries. Royer spent 4 years with the Cardinals, never exceeding more than 39 games in a season. In 1994, the Red Sox selected him off of waivers. At age 23, Green pitched 1 season in the Cardinals' High A affiliate in St. Petersburg. It marked the final season of his pro career. So that's the story of how Willie McGee won the National League batting title a month after the Cardinals traded him to the American League. For more Cardinals history, visit stlredbirds.com or follow me on Twitter at Remembirds, REMEMBIRDS.
Shooter from the belt to the plate. A swing and a miss, and that's a winner! That's a winner! A World Series winner for the Cardinals!